What's up? What's happening on a championship Monday here on the Hoffman Show? We're live on the Team 980. I'm Craig Hoffman. That's Anthony Haney. Except for you're watching on YouTube, then that's Anthony Haney because he's on the opposite side that he's supposed to be on the screen. We tried flipping it, and I hated it, so I flipped it back. All right. Welcome in to the show on I think, a very interesting championship Monday. The Oklahoma City Thunder are the 2025 NBA champions, and they are deserving champions, as deserving can be. They're a 68-win behemoth. They had the defining characteristic of the NBA season, which is their depth and defense. Just absolutely outstanding, historical, even on the defensive side. And yet, they win a Game 7 that is going to be remembered, like the defining, indelible image. Unfortunately, will not be Shai Gilgeous-Alexander hitting some specific shot. It will not be Shai or any of his teammates on the podium with the trophy. Maybe you remember a block from Chet Holmgren. Certainly, he was incredible last night. He had 5 of them. None of them any defining moment. Oklahoma City really wins it in a run in the third quarter. Not a moment. In some way, the moment from the game that defines Oklahoma City's victory is Rick Carlisle calling timeout. You pick which one in the third quarter. But it's going to be remembered because the indelible, burned in your brain image that you will remember, Game 7, 2025. Oh, man, that was the Haliburton game, wasn't it? That's the game where Tyrese went down with the Achilles, and he instantly knew it. He's the disbelief, the no, as he pounds the ground, leaving the court in inconsolable tears, towel on his head, being carried by one of the league's great vets, James Johnson, and some of the members of the Pacers staff. Him waiting for his teammates, towel still on head or back on head, greeting his teammates in the tunnel after the loss, standing there on crutches. And it leaves us as people who talk about this in a weird place, because you do not want to take away anything from the Thunder. The Thunder are a deserving NBA champion. The Thunder are a team that has everything you want. I don't think people fully appreciate how good Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is, and I would, to an extent, include myself in this, because it's like, this cute story, like he's scoring a lot of points. This man has averaged 30 points a game for 3 straight years in the NBA. That's one of the great scoring runs of all time. He's the MVP. He just averaged 30.3 points per game in the NBA Finals in a 7-game series where his team needed every ounce of his play. But you're also left with this impossibly to avoid question of, like, what happens if Haliburton doesn't get hurt last night? Because, Anthony, I talked about it on Friday. In Game 7s, they're ugly, and stars typically rue the day. And I said that's a bad sign for Indiana because their star probably isn't up to that task because he's banged up. And if it's going to come down to a star, it seems like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is the most likely to have the exact kind of game that he did. Inefficient, but productive. He didn't shoot it well. Made 8 shots. It felt like he made 18. He made 8 shots from the field. Made a ton of free throws. Made 8 shots from the field to get above 30. Again, by the way, 12 assists, 1 turnover. Haliburton-esque, you might say. But it looked like, Anthony, at the beginning of that game, Tyrese Haliburton was going to be that star. The Pacers are leading at halftime, and their second leading scorer, who got hurt 5 minutes into the game, was Tyrese Haliburton. He had 9 points. Like that game he had against the Knicks where he had 40 points and 15 assists. Is Tyrese Haliburton about to pull this off? And then in a moment, it's gone. In a moment, it's done. And I think to compound that, you have in the third quarter where Oklahoma City is able to pull away, like obviously TJ McConnell, I think it's easy to say, TJ McConnell, his backup, is playing extraordinarily well. Like, oh my God, well, they're not even missing him. Like, TJ's got it. But one of the things that I talked about on Friday happened both in the first half to McConnell without Haliburton and then to the Pacers without Haliburton in the third quarter. Even when they are on the floor together and they run a ton of stuff through TJ and say, hey, man, go cook. TJ McConnell operates with a life raft, and that life raft is Tyrese Haliburton. If the ball gets too sticky, if the ball gets too stuck, if they lose their pace too much, Tyrese regains control. He starts pushing things. He gets bodies and people moving. They are still the Indiana Pacers. They do not become insert ISO team here. They do not become the Houston Rockets of James Harden's day, except for instead of James Harden, it's TJ McConnell, because Tyrese Haliburton doesn't let them. And the other factor is it changes the defensive matchups, because even if TJ McConnell is on the ball the most, if you were to say, well, we're going to pretend like Tyrese Haliburton doesn't matter as much, he's still Tyrese Haliburton. So if you have, I don't know, let's call him Lou Dort, one of the best perimeter defenders in the NBA. On the floor, he's guarding Haliburton. And Cason Wallace, or someone who is fine, even in Cason Wallace's case, pretty good defensively, is guarding McConnell, and it's a very different matchup. And so for a guy like McConnell to all of a sudden in that second quarter have to deal with Lou Dort didn't go great. So the second quarter, TJ, not there. Third quarter, he's able to shake loose a little bit, but it, in a way, was a double-edged sword because no one else touched the ball. Their pace completely died. He was operating without the life raft. And they needed to get others involved. And then when TJ went out, / the well went dry, a couple of turnovers, no one else is in rhythm. No one else is taking a shot. You have this massive stretch of the game where no Pacer but TJ McConnell scores. I don't even know how many took shots during that. And then the hole widens and widens and widens. Suddenly, it's too big to make up from. They do make some semblance of a fourth quarter run, but they never really threaten again. And that is the end of that. And so the importance of Haliburton in a third quarter that decides the game, where the Pacers lost their identity, lost their pace, and turned the ball over, I think it was 8 times in the corner, when the guy who defines their pace and somehow operates this high wire act of an offense that passes the ball all over the place and doesn't turn it over. And he's the guy that handles the ball without turning it over. When that is missing, and that is exactly how Oklahoma City won the game, that is not to say that they couldn't have done something similar with Haliburton, because they did in this series. They turned Haliburton over more than any other team has. That's not to say if Haliburton plays, Indiana wins the championship. It is to say the thing that they were missing is the thing that Haliburton could have provided on a night where he looked like he was locked in and on one. And us as basketball fans getting robbed of the ability to see what happens, to see if Oklahoma City would have said, we don't care. We're us. We're going to do it anyway. That sucks. And it sucks for us as neutral observers and fans. Nevertheless, does it suck for Tyrese Haliburton and the Pacers, who are now not only left empty-handed or whatever, one hand is empty. They have the Eastern Conference title, and that's not nothing. This team should be celebrated in Indianapolis and in Indiana for as long as they live. This was a team that you should be proud of. If you're a Pacers fan, this was a team that was so much fun to watch that I, as someone who picked Oklahoma City and enjoys being right in those predictions, I had no problem rooting for Indiana and it wasn't something that I thought I would do. I really like this Oklahoma City team too. I'm really thrilled for them. And frankly, I'm also thrilled for some of the local folks that were involved in building parts of it, especially Will Dawkins played a huge role in building that team, though Sam Presti gets the obvious most credit. But I just found myself rooting for the Pacers. I loved what they meant for basketball. And so if it sucks for us, I can't imagine how much it sucks for them, how painful it is for them. They should be proud of themselves. They should hold their heads high. They competed with a Goliath in this Thunder team. And you're just kind of left asking, what if? Even though there's no doubt that the defining team, the best team in 2024-2025 NBA is the Oklahoma City Thunder, led by the best and defining player of the 24-25 season, regular season, and playoffs in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Worthy champions. Wear the crown. You deserve it. And as we go here, we can talk about their ability to continue this going forward, which is, as you've likely heard, as well set up as you can possibly be in the modern NBA. But what does that actually mean? That's where I think I diverge a little bit from some of the consensus. But we will get into that as we go. I want Anthony's thoughts on this game. We'll get them and dive more into the game itself as opposed to the big picture conclusion. Next, it's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. It's Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. Whoa. Always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Streaming live on YouTube, too, at the Team 980. You saw, had a little mic situation. You in your LMFAO party rock mood, Anthony?
Man, it is a celebration, Mr. Craig Hoffman.
I see what you're doing. Because you're going to Paris later this week.
Nah, it was more so for...
I know, it's for the Thunder. I was making a joke. Thanks for...
No problem.
Making it feel like... Whatever. Get out of here. Go somewhere else. All right. The point is, the Oklahoma City Thunder are champions of 2025. Game 7 was, in many ways, I think a classic NBA Finals Game 7. Like, it was a slugfest. NBA Finals games in general are just hard. I think that Tom Haberstroh was saying on the Kevin O'Connor show that I was listening to in part on the way in, that like regular season games these days, the average offensive rating is like 106. And in NBA Finals games, it's 100. This series in general, both offenses, which were great in the regular season, operated at like bottom 5 or so levels of the league. They were like 25th. Like the 25th team in the regular season in offensive rating, that's the level that both these teams were operating, which is obviously a credit to Oklahoma City for being exactly who they are, but also to Indiana. And I thought RJ and Doris did a great job on the broadcast last night of talking about like Indiana's evolution defensively is really, really spectacular. And some of it was specific to how they matched up with OKC in a really nice way for them, but it's also generally like they did the same thing to New York. They obviously flummoxed Boston and were up big before Tatum got hurt in that series. So it was a battle. And the fact that Indiana was up at halftime post the Haliburton injury was incredible, but Oklahoma City have been a third quarter team all year, and that's, Anthony, ultimately where they won it was that third quarter.
Yeah, that third quarter was brutal, man. And I was telling my friends, because I was watching the game with them, they were saying, the Pacers really got a chance, and they did have a chance, but you just got to wait to see what happens in the second half. There's been times in the second half where the Pacers have come out and, dominated the Thunder. But in this game specifically and other games as well, the Thunder really got after them, forcing turnovers. And I think one of the things you pointed out on Friday in terms of, Lou Dort guarding T.J. McConnell, and sort of kind of why T.J. McConnell's the backup point guard that he is, because when you put a guy like him or Alex Caruso on him and he has to, work for everything, it becomes, a little bit tougher than just, playing against reserve. So I thought we saw that on display at the end of the third, because I'm not going to lie, to start the third quarter, TJ, he had a stretch where he scored like 10 to 12 straight. And I'm just like, is this man about to, take over by himself? Because it seemed that way. Rick Carlisle left him out there by himself. He took Pascal Siakam off the court, Nesmith, Nembhard, and he was like, TJ, just go. And when he did that, that's when the Thunder just sicked them wolves on him, man. Like Dort, Caruso, they were after him. So, they just didn't have enough. I think if Haliburton was there, we would have saw the reserves get a little bit more involved. But they took Obi Toppin, who had, a phenomenal series, all the way out of the game.
Had a bad night.
Who else? They took all of those guys out of the game. Like, none of the reserves really had big games outside of T.J. McConnell. And Mathurin had spurts.
Yeah, Mathurin I thought was good last night. In general, obviously, some of the stats he accumulates are late in the game. But Mathurin has 24 and 13 rebounds. But, man, I will say this. Like, I loved the lack of quit and the fight and the feistiness of Benedict Mathurin. Like, that kid there's something there that could be bigger. And if he can develop some consistency and some better decision-making, the Pacers are still going to be really good. Like, we're getting ahead of ourselves a little bit, and we're going to talk about, obviously, the NBA moving forward over the next couple of weeks or the next couple of days as we get towards the draft. And also, this is what you do at the end of a season, is you look ahead to next year. Like, the Pacers are still going to be factors next year because they play such a distinct style. Haliburton is the engine that makes that go. But if they can find a way to extract more regularly out of Mathurin, that is the key to them being contenders-ish next year. I don't know that he's that good, but there's something there, obviously, with Mathurin. But to your point, like, Toppin, 0 points in 21 minutes. And it wasn't for lack of effort. He was trying to get to the rim. He was trying to run the floor. He's trying to do the Obi top and stuff, and he couldn't. The Thunder were all over him. He had 3 turnovers as a guy who doesn't really handle the ball that much. McConnell, 16 points on 8 of 13. No free throw attempts. So even though he had the run, it was the most inefficient way to score you can. Just 2-pointer after 2-pointer at a time without the addition of threes or free throws to tack on. He also had 7 turnovers compared to Haliburton in that stretch would have had far less, even if he had a couple extra points. But, I mean, the third quarter, they had the stats at one point, and we're like midway through the quarter, and Oklahoma City's got 10 more shots than Indiana between offensive rebounds and turnovers, and you simply cannot win that way.
Yeah, you definitely can't. They definitely got to a lot of the 50-50 balls. But again, like the third quarter was definitely the turning point. And I think they just needed like a little bit more because, again, they had 4 guys. Let me see. They had 4 guys scoring in double figures. Like outside of that, they just didn't have enough. And OKC, we just kept seeing them. Chet Holmgren, was showing up. Jalen Williams was chipping in. And then you had Shea also delivering the blow, and then also Lou Dort, his energy, his effort. I think they just wanted it more, and it's something about playing in that building. Or just, having home court advantage in general for OKC and the reserves or, the others. And that's what they say Game 7s are about. It's about the others, and the others definitely stepped up for Shea. He only shot 8 for 27, but, we saw everybody else definitely deliver.
And that's what stars do in these games often. Like, you just have to take the shots if you're the star. I mean, Kobe famously in Game 7 in 2010, 6 of 24. Shea does it. There's a couple other examples out there of guys that didn't have like the most efficient games, but they ultimately like used up the possessions to get good shots off or get shots off, and that is better than the turnovers that Indiana had. At the 8:32 mark of the third quarter, Miles Turner hit a 3 to make it 56-56. The next time a non-TJ McConnell Pacer scored, Anthony, was
7:28 fourth quarter.
Was it really that bad? It went all the way into the fourth? Holy crap, it did. So what did I say, 8:32.
Yeah, it was Pascal Siakam. It was a jumper.
All the way until
they didn't score they didn't score on the fourth until 7:28, and it was Pascal Siakam.
Yeah. So that's over a full quarter.
Yeah.
Where nobody but TJ McConnell scored. And at that point, it was 90-70. So you went from 56 all to 90-70. And so as great as the TJ McConnell run was, in many ways it was the best thing that happened to the Thunder. Because in between the points were a lot of McConnell turnovers and no one else being involved. And it hurts you defensively. It hurts you offensively, obviously, no one else involved. And it's the kind of thing that just simply doesn't happen if they have Tyrese Haliburton, which should explain to everyone the value of Tyrese Haliburton. All right, when we get back, the NBA has now had 7 different champions in the last 7 years. What do we make of that, especially through the lens of, I don't know, the Washington Wizards? We'll discuss next on The Hoffman Show. They're celebrating in Oklahoma City a 2025 NBA championship, which is a different city than, last year, and different one the year before, and different one the year before that. Repeat that 7 years back, and you not only have no repeat champions as in back-to-back, you have no repeat champions, period, and that has never happened in the history of the NBA. There were 6 champions in 7 years in the early to mid-'70s. But this is a truly unprecedented time in NBA history. And I remember talking about this back in 2021 after the Bucks won and being like, I think we're in a pretty weird time because, like, LeBron's kind of done. Seems like Steph is done. Hilariously, Steph won the title the next year. But then they haven't repeated since. So you have the final 2 championships, barring something happening in the next couple of years for Steph and LeBron. You have emergent superstars like Giannis and Jokic who get theirs. You have obviously Kawhi's one healthy superstar season in 2019 to kick this whole thing off. I guess technically 2018 if you want to go back to the last of the Warriors titles. But you just have this unknown in league history parity, Anthony, and I think the thing that's interesting to me about it is all of these champions have kind of tracked to this evolution to the Thunder of what we are now, what we see now with a younger, deeper roster. Because the 2018 Warriors are all about star power, right? It's all about the fact that they got KD, Clay, Draymond, and Steph. Didn't matter. As long as you had NBA players, that team was probably winning the championship, right? You have those 4 Hall of Famers in their prime, the greatest defender of his generation, the greatest pure scorer, whatever that means, of his generation, the greatest 2 shooters ever, and Curry's so much more than that. Not that you need to be much more than that, but he is. Like, amazing. 19 is much more about a singular star in Kawhi and what that can do. Obviously, guys like Kyle Lowry are really important to that team. Pascal was really freaking good on that team. So the 2019 Raptors, in a way, look, I think, a lot more like this Thunder team in that they have a singular star surrounded by really excellent support. And in this case, I think obviously the support is younger and has more room to grow up, which is relevant in terms of the longevity piece. The Lakers are a different beast in 2020. They're kind of a throwback to the star era of AD, LeBron. 21, Milwaukee has their big 3, but it's, again, a singular star of that caliber, Hall of Fame type. It's Giannis. You have Middleton, who, by the way, congrats to him, I guess, picked up his option today. Whenever you can sign a contract that gives you $33 million, congrats to you. And Chris Middleton exercised his option with the Wizards today, which is something I think the Wizards very much wanted to happen. They'll probably flip him again in the future, but they loved having him last year. But Middleton, at that point, still an all-star player with Holiday. But they also were a team that relied on a little bit more depth, and fit was the real big thing for them. Like, yes, Giannis was a star in the way that stars are traditionally stars, but you have the perfect complement of this defensive menace who also is a great shooter in Holiday. Middleton is a guy who, Giannis can do everything a star can do and more, except for the one thing that we kind of rely on stars for, which is get you a really big clutch bucket. And Middleton's that guy. Oh, hey, we have this 7-foot monster who does everything. What do we do with the other 7-foot guy? Oh, he's a 40% three-point shooter in Brook Lopez. Cool. Who won in 22? Oh, the Warriors. Just Steph, Clay, Draymond. But they also had the right pieces around, including Jordan Poole. 23, you have the Nuggets. The fit of Jokic and Murray is more classic, but almost in a hey, do you have the right Dennis Rodman type piece? Like Aaron Gordon is incredible. Bruce Brown. It was about the depth, which we've seen, because when Denver lost that depth, they're not that team anymore. Michael Porter Jr. They needed all of it. And then obviously 24, Boston, overwhelming star power, but also fit. the way that Porzingis and Brown and Holiday and White and all of those guys fit together. But that's probably the most talented team of the bunch. I mean, legitimately like 5-star players. And then obviously this year's version of the Thunder with the reigning MVP, 30-point per game scorer in Shea, surrounded by incredible depth that gave them a ton of options if you're Mark Daigneault as the coach. And I think that like transition into having more depth, more options in a league that requires more solutions to more problems, and the move from like the, singular type of players like the Clay and Durant and the Currys and the Draymonds, even the fit of specialization versus the fit of generalization. We have all these highly switchable, and obviously the Warriors had that too. They were kind of the OGs of this. The switchability, the versatility, like the kind of ushering in of this era, which in many ways goes back to the 2015 Warriors. I think is a really interesting thing. And as you're looking at a team like the Wizards trying to rebuild and how they're thinking about it, and you'd say the same thing in Utah, you say the same thing in all these other places that are embarking on these builds, the Nets. I think the chase of really good, useful two-way players that will always help a winner, and then trying to see how do we get our star, and then do we get any more specific fits to complement that star. That to me is where NBA team building is right now, and that's a hard thing to try to do because you have to get the star still. But it does make me feel, I think, like honestly pretty good about some of the pieces the Wizards have acquired. It doesn't mean that they have the star yet, and if you don't forget that, like all of it is for naught. But if you think of the support pieces, guys like Bilal Coulibaly, like you could see him on the Thunder. You could see him on the Pacers. Guy who runs the floor, plays really good defense, plays really hard, is getting better as a shooter. Bub, same thing. Keyshawn George, like that guy 100% could be a Thunder or a Pacer player. And I think that kind of stuff is encouraging. Again, it doesn't solve the problem of you also need Haliburton. You also need Shea. You also need Giannis. You need Jokic. You need someone who is a rare special talent. But you also need a ton of these guys. And I think that's kind of what I take out of these finals in terms of if I'm another team trying to learn roster building from these title contenders.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny you actually bring up, Bilal Coulibaly potentially being, a solid piece that could go to, one of these other contenders. The streak of Wizards players being on a title-winning team actually just ended because the Oklahoma City Thunder won. If the Pacers had won, I think that streak would have gone to 9 straight years we've had a Wizards player.
I think it's something like that, yeah, because Thomas Bryant, former Wizard. Although, like, do we get an asterisk because Will Dawkins helped build the Thunder?
I mean, if we really want to move the goalposts like that, I think we can.
I mean, it's not like it really matters. Is there anybody that went from here? Any coaches? I don't
know
think
about
so.
Coaches.
I don't think so.
But I mean, it's just still like interesting. Having, I think, former Wizards players always like on a lot of those teams and serving as valuable role players and like assets. But I think one of the other things to point out is, I agree with everything you said because we're not in a situation. I think like 10 years ago, we would have been able to come into the NBA season and say who the title favorites are and those teams actually be in it. So you got the Heat, you got with the Cavs with LeBron, you got the Warriors, you got the Spurs. You got the Raptors. Like those probably were the 4 teams that were always in the conference finals and things of that nature. But now you can't come into the NBA, the new season, with an idea of like who's going to be there. Anybody can be in the finals this year. And even after the trade of Kevin Durant to the Rockets, it's not like they're not a shoe-in to go straight to the NBA finals. That West is so wide open. The East, a little up and down because of the
East is equally wide open. It's just for very different reasons.
Yeah, that's you well said. All the injuries out there in the East definitely does affect it a little bit, but it is open. So I think we're in the NBA where like we sort of kind of just don't know like how it's going to end out, and you can only depend on the success of the season and then also just staying healthy.
No, there's no doubt about that. And I think that health is always a factor, and that's actually what I want to talk about next. Like, are we at a point where the NBA, with this Haliburton injury and the 3 Achilles injuries we saw in this playoffs, needs to seriously consider a way to avoid these injuries? Like, what can the NBA do? What's causing them? Well, we'll talk about that next. And, speaking also, Anthony, to the other point of how wide open this is, we'll spend a lot more time tomorrow looking ahead, including with my guy Paul Gallant from Houston on the Durant trade. We also have someone on the Durant trade from the Phoenix side today at 5 o'clock for Not My Beat. So we're locked and loaded, all things NBA today here on the Hoffman Show. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. Always live as well on the free Odyssey app. We check in on the what has been really a slow motion implosion of the Phoenix Suns coming up at 5 o'clock. Durant trade over the weekend. Some great irony, Anthony, and Kevin Durant, of all people, getting traded on the day the Thunder win the NBA championship. By the way, SGA is now the greatest Oklahoma City Thunder player of all time, right? Like,
because he brought a championship to their city?
He brought a championship. He's Durant won one MVP. How many scoring titles?
I mean, Russ is a better Thunder than Kevin Durant.
Well, that's emotionally speaking because he didn't leave.
Well, yeah, he did leave too.
I mean, but he didn't leave like Durant left.
Nah, and he spent more years there though.
By a couple. But like, Durant was a better player.
Oh, no question. Yeah.
So Durant
no question.
in Oklahoma City won one MVP. He finished runner-up 3 times. He led the league in scoring 4 times. Led them to 1 NBA Finals, no championships. So that's the OKC resume and Rookie of the Year if you want to count Seattle.
All right, this is what I will say, Craig, because this goes into the conversation LeBron James and all these OG veteran NBA players have been discussing about ring culture. Like, does bringing a ring to Oklahoma City matter a little bit more? Or does it say a little bit more about your legacy in that city?
It definitely is a factor.
I'm just making sure.
It definitely is a large factor. Especially when you're the best player, you're the driver of success or not, and ultimately like your ability. And as long as you have the support, and like KD had the support, I think in a lot of those years, obviously they could have made another run with Harden, but SGA, well, I guess he's only got 1 scoring title. I thought he had multiple because he's averaged 30 each of the last 3 years.
Yeah,
but he wasn't.
Embiid was cooking, I think, 2 years ago.
Yeah, he averaged 31.4 2 years ago, and he wasn't the NBA's leading scorer.
Dang.
He averaged 30.1 last year, and then this year it's 32.7. I think it's getting close. Obviously, the championship is a big freaking deal. But I guess that's up for debate this summer on Oklahoma City radio. Here in D.C., here in a show that talks about basketball more generally, the NBA has a real problem with these soft tissue injuries and these muscle and ligament injuries. And we've talked about this before, but I think the NBA needs to shorten the season. And I even saw, I wish I remember who it was, but someone was like they should do 5-game series in the playoffs. And I kind of think they should do both. And part of me hates that because, man, the playoffs fun. It's 2 months. But, like, it also is so long, right? Think about teams that lost in the first round, how long they have been done. It doesn't feel like the first round series that we had are in the same season as the finals that just concluded last night. It's so long ago. I mean, it's the difference. The time that has elapsed from the end of the season, the regular season, to now is the same from the All-Star break to the regular season. From the start of the regular season until Christmas. Like, the season is in quarters, and then you add a full extra 5th quarter to the season if you're going to play this long. And the game itself is more physically demanding, which is different than more physical. They don't punch each other like they used to quite as much. They don't shuck each other like they used to quite as much. But the running and in a way, the freedom of movement that has been opened. These guys run and jump and space the floor, and it's just so much more demanding, specifically on the legs and the lower legs, than it used to be. And they're so athletic that the forces and the ground forces that they're creating is just, I think there's some stuff they could do within even the current schedule to try to help from a training, like load management has a bad negative intonation because it just seems like do less. But like, I don't know that the current schedule optimizes for even 82 games, nevertheless the 100 that the Thunder just played and the Pacers just played. But I do think just less games, all the games become far more important. And making everything but the finals a 5-game series in the playoffs, you would have less injuries, 100%. Is that worth it financially? And from is it still NBA basketball standpoint? That I think is a different question, which is maybe what we do tomorrow on Vibe Check Tuesday. Maybe we take calls on that.
Yeah, I mean, my only question would be, in term, like how much of the onus would you put on the players? Because I feel like a player like LeBron James, who went to 8 straight NBA Finals,
he's an alien.
7-game series after 7-game series, like
he's an alien. Like, there's no good explanation for why LeBron James can do anything. LeBron James
I don't know.
Pick someone else.
I guess I can pick the Warriors and Steph Curry.
Clay got hurt in 2019.
Dang, he did. He tore his ACL.
He tore his ACL. Then on his comeback, he tore his Achilles. He missed 2 years. Steph has been banged up along the way. Steph's missed, the Warriors got lucky in that they had Durant to cover for when Steph was gone, and then Steph was able to come back when they needed him in the Rockets series in the Western Conference Finals that year, and then they obviously win in the finals. But, they were able to survive without Steph Curry and have the dynasty because they had Kevin Durant, which was a total fluke of the CBA and stupid decisions a bunch of owners made. So the Warriors had, if even in 2019, Durant gets hurt, he busts the Achilles before Clay gets hurt. So nope.
I guess LeBron James is just an anomaly. That's all.
Yeah. That dude's a unicorn. He's an alien. All meant complimentary. But he's just different. And I think that, yes, does he train really hard and he trains really smart? Absolutely. But he also is clearly built different. He just has God-given ability or whatever deity you believe in. Good DNA. But I think that there is... Tom Haberstroh had a stat in Yahoo last week, or he wrote this actually after the Tatum injury, that star injuries are up 7-fold since the early 2000s. So this is not, this is happening in this way. And the NBA's got to wrestle with it, and I don't know exactly what they're going to do with that. It's Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Speaking of Kevin Durant, he's a Houston Rocket now, or at least he will be officially on July 6th. We'll talk to a Phoenix Suns insider about how it all went down next on the Team 980. It's Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app, streaming live on YouTube too at the Team 980. We're almost all NBA today. We spent the first hour on the NBA Finals. We will talk more about that later. Now we will get to the Kevin Durant trade, but we will have a football detour at 5:30. Logan and I answering a very fun mailbag question on Take Command that we'll share with you. But right now, it is time for Not My Beat.
Today's top story from the perspective of someone who's there.
You are looking live.
This just in.
Not My Beat.
Dwayne Rankins is a Suns insider. In fact, he's the Suns insider for the Arizona Republic, and he joins us now to talk about the Kevin Durant trade from the Phoenix end of things. Dwayne, how are you? Hope you're doing well after, I'm sure, what was a hectic day yesterday.
All part of it. All the day's work.
Yeah, no, for sure. The segment that we call this Not My Beat, because I used to be on a beat, and I'm very happy to not be responsive to breaking news in that way anymore. So I salute you and thank you for your time on the show with that introduction. But Dwayne, let's peel back some layers here and just start with the Suns try to put this together, this big three with Durant and obviously Devin Booker, who was there. And then ultimately they acquire Beal from here. How quickly in the experiment did you know this is not going well and it's not going to go well?
The second season is when it became obvious. I thought that the end of the first year, when they were going into the playoffs, I was like, okay, this has potential, because you could see when they did play with each other and the ball moved, guys got open shots, and you're like, okay, this is what they envisioned. But then when they got swept by Minnesota, then you were like, I didn't like the fit. And then you think, maybe it's just Minnesota. Minnesota, got defenders. Maybe that was the problem. And then when they got going and Beal just couldn't stay healthy, then you're like, okay, are they going to have time to figure it out? And then when they did play together, there was moments, but it was like, nah, this isn't going to work because Beal just couldn't stay healthy. And then when he did come in, it always felt like the chemistry was off. And then when Budenholzer benched Beal, that let you know that big three idea was a wrap. Now he put him back in the starting lineup eventually, but that was the final nail. Once he benched Beal, it became, okay, they're not even going to roll with this anymore. And so that's when it became apparent to me that it was going to be, that this wasn't going to work. And 45 and 33 is just not good enough for that group. And then when I spoke with Devin Booker late in the season, this past season, he was like, well, we haven't had a lot of time together, but that's not an excuse. That's basically your franchise players saying, we can't move forward with this. So there's been many instances where it became obvious that it wasn't going to happen.
Suns insider Dwayne Rankins with us here on the Hoffman Show. Obviously, there is an extra interest here in the D.C. market in the Beal part of this, and we know that he has the no trade clause, famously, and that the Suns tried to trade him, or tried to work a trade at the deadline, and he was like, "No, I'm good." Is that ultimately why Durant is gone here? Is basically that they couldn't get rid of Beal and they don't want to get rid of Booker? So basically, what is the calculus here for Phoenix deciding now is the time on ending the Kevin Durant portion of the experiment?
Well, one, you have to look at it that way in terms of why Durant is the one that got traded. They weren't going to trade Devin. They just weren't. I mean, he's the guy here, and they're going to. The whole thought of trading him, there would have been a riot here in this city had they traded Devin Booker. That's not the reason why you don't trade a guy. I'm just saying that wasn't going to happen. Then Beal with the no trade clause, and I make the comparison to a Rubik's Cube for those who are in the age bracket and know what that is. You basically, they would get one side of it right, and okay, well, no, that's not the right team. And then you go, okay, this is a good team for Beal. One. So it's always not mixing and matching, not getting it right for all parties to want it to happen. And so the Suns, they tried. They tried almost any combination you could think of to try to make that deal for Beal, but it just didn't work out. And so you can't go 36 and 46 and pay the salary that you're paying all three of those guys and think you're gonna move forward with that. So it's a lot of factors involved, but ultimately, yeah, they would have preferred to move Bradley Beal than Kevin Durant. That's for sure.
So what's next for the Phoenix Suns? Like 100% they're not trading Booker, and is there any chance that they can trade Beal this summer? Is he potentially, especially with Durant gone, maybe more open to some larger swath of teams, or is he just planted in Phoenix and they have to wait out his contract?
Well, the Jalen Green coming in now becomes okay. This fit actually might be worse than the fit with Kevin, because at least Kevin had the size and he could play off the ball and be a catch and shoot player. Kevin's a plug and play. He can play any style. Now you got three perimeter players in Devin, Jalen, and Brad. It just feels like if you're gonna move forward with this, then you're talking about a situation where you're watching and going, okay, this probably isn't going to work either. So a move has got to be made. You would think. Jordan, now you're talking about a first-year head coach. You're going to ask him to figure out a lineup with a bunch of perimeter guys. They could get bigger in the draft. They can make some trades. But if they're able to move Bill, then you could address the size issues that you have, and then it becomes just what team would be ideal. Before the season ended, one thing I was looking at just salaries alone is Paul George. If they just traded him to Philly for Paul George, what would that look like? Because salaries are about the same, and that was just a thought that I had. I'm not saying that the Suns had the same thought because I don't know, but they need to find something like that where a team doesn't want their guy or could move on without a guy that has similar salaries. And both guys will be happy going to the other team. Well, really, it would be Beal, because Beal has a no-trade clause.
Dwayne Rankins is with us, Phoenix Suns insider. When you look at the identity of this team, I think that's something that if I was a Suns fan, I'd be pretty frustrated with, because they've gone through so many coaches. They've churned the roster, and this is a team that was in the NBA Finals 3 years ago and looked very promising with a young star in Devin Booker. Do you feel like with Ishbia now there for a couple years, having flipped the front office, having flipped the coaching staff, again, gone young at that position, that even if it gets off to a rough start this year because they can't work through the Beal part of it or some other roster-based issue, that they'll at least at a point, Dwayne, where they will try to settle into some kind of identity moving forward? Or do you think this thing is still a moving target, and who knows what we're talking about by the trade deadline with this team?
I mean, look, it's easy to sit and say, oh, you guys should rebuild. That's just not what Matt Ishbia is. And when your reputation, when you come in with the mentality of win a championship, you're going to roll with that, and that's where he's at with it. Like, he could easily say, you know what, we're rebuilding. It's just what it is, and move on. But he's just not going to do that. And now, when you're looking at the team, they could go into this year with Beal. They could do that. I wouldn't be surprised if they did that. But at some point, if you're at that point like you're talking about before the trade deadline, it's looking like, okay, this isn't going to work. Then that's when you can see a move being made. The bottom line is they're over the second apron. So Matt Ishbia doesn't even really realize what the value of the dollar is, because right now what he's paying for isn't resulting in competing for a championship. If they can get under the second apron, then you will see some move that, okay, this is how you build a team. And so that's where they're at. And one of the ways you can get under it is try to figure out Beal. I mean, it's just, his contract is just, which in Beal's defense,